I think we need to add a bit of realism to this Bitcoin move. Yes, it's bouncing, sentiment is changing slightly, but only if you're looking in the dark creeks of X right now. Now, I feel like we've been here before. I personally, not financial advice, don't think we've had the big boy drop yet. Seems a bit too easy. Now, being bearish doesn't mean I've sold everything. If you know me, I have some stables I'm waiting to buy, but I still hold Bitcoin. If this does go higher, I still win. So there's no real risk in that sense. But as I say, I feel like we've not had that squeeze, horrible, ugly bear market yet. I think some people are forgetting how bad it can be. I'm going to showcase exactly what I'm looking for, why I'm looking for it, and what to look out for yourself. Because going back a little bit, as I say, right, a few little green candles doesn't change much when it talks about the world of cycles, and I will go through that in more detail in a second. But if you are in the likes of Reddit, X, certain YouTubers that you watch, you may be in a bit of a chamber, an echo chamber where you're told what you want to hear for views. And I don't think that's the case if you look at the bigger zoomed out picture, especially when it comes to the technicals around the total market cap, the sentiment around altcoins, Bitcoin, especially MicroStrategy, what could happen there. Not to mention the Clarity Act. Everyone's expecting that to do well, but it might not. We've seen that before with a lot of big things. It doesn't always materialize the way we want it to. People have disappeared. Myself included. I do one video a week to maintain quality because there's nothing really to talk about. I don't do much even on my Patreon versus what I used to because quality. There's not enough news, not enough TA, there's not enough volatility. And that's fine. That's just how it is. But don't get confused with a couple of candles that look a bit green for volatility or, a confirmation that we are now in a bull market all of a sudden. It doesn't really add up. The fact that people got excited at a $66,000 Bitcoin from a $58,000 drop is pretty bad. It shows you how far we've fallen. So let's get up much, much higher and then we can get excited. Because on the screen, this is a 4-hour time frame. It's, I know, nothing groundbreaking here, but that's what it looks like. Between May of the drop into June, the slight recovery and then a drop into I'd say the word wishy-washy, bounce, you could argue. It's not really groundbreaking. And if we zoom out a little bit in terms of the daily time frame, this is where we are, okay? We have had these drops, recovery, drop, recovery, drop, recovery, right? There's a lot that we need to unpack. We need to get much, much higher, in my opinion, to get excited. We are at levels of resistance now. We've already rejected, you could probably argue, let me zoom in for you mobile users. We may well be rejecting these levels of resistance levels from what, start of the year, the old tariff debacle. But you get the idea. This is an interesting zone. Obviously, it is just the way it is. This is where the previous all-time high was, which is what I've got labeled on my chart here. I also have potential buy zones much, much lower. If you follow me, you'll know that. But I'm not excited about it yet until something really changes. And yeah, we can go much higher and still be kind of, well, this could fall off because there's this level here that we need to look at. Where does this breaker structure come from? When do we get like this wave up? Where does it fall over? The problem we have, I think, this is not financial advice, but I think a lot of people are buying Bitcoin at the lows and getting a bit jittery, selling maybe above break even and taking the profit and running, instead of seeing the sustainability. That's what happens in bear markets. People shit themselves, basically. So just be mindful of that. But this is the altcoin market. Now, I'm not ignoring the bullish signals here around the world of crypto. I'm not. But there's nothing really bullish about the altcoin market, which makes me wonder. The altcoin market has been pretty washed for a while. I'm not talking about this cycle. I'm talking about the previous cycle as well, because we didn't really go high enough, I think. When we talk about total market cap, it's a very, very laggy, horrible, ugly number anyways, because the dilution of, cryptocurrencies is going to inflate this number anyways, right? So that's a problem. When we talk about it in the BTC pair, it looks a little bit better. Let me just showcase it. But not amazing because since, September, we've been sideways. Nothing's happening in the BTC pair. That's just showing us where we are in terms of sentiment. It's honking, and that's the overall sentiment around why altcoins did not pump in the previous cycle. It's quite obvious now. People didn't want to hear it when it was happening, but it happened, and that's the unfortunate truth. Even the likes of the Ethereum.D, it's not looking good, bruv. This is probably struggling to get out of this zone. It's probably going to go back down to these levels. Maybe. We'll see where we go. But if Bitcoin does drop, you're going to see a big, big, big change in the rotation around altcoins because they're not really holding up. That's the problem. Because, again, Bitcoin dominance, it's been holding for such a long time in and around this region. This is pretty much a sideways movement, apart from this one deviation to the upside and then back down into the lows again. Not looking good. So, yeah, it's made things a little bit harder. But this is the thing, we could talk about my experience since 2016, but the market's changed. Stable currencies have got a lot bigger, so you don't really get that drive from the BTC side of it anymore. You don't really get, choice, if that makes sense, because the world of like cryptocurrencies, there's too much choice, isn't there? You don't have that situation where one really stands out. There's too many exchanges as well. It isn't really, I don't think now, especially in the recent history, strong narratives that sustain long enough. There's little flashes in the pan, but they don't really sustain for massive, massive periods. And any sort of bounce, realistically, are not strong enough. You could talk about the past. Low liquidity with a bit of volume, it would create some sort of surge. And we don't see enough of that. We see it in the meme coin world, but how manipulated are them? Very, very manipulated. Coins used to bounce 30 to 50 to 100% in a devastating downtrend, used to catch a wave up for a couple of months. What do we see? We see absolutely nothing. And what's happening is I think a lot of people are impatient. They're no longer trading because of that side of it. They've been burnt that many times, so it's kind of lost the appetite, and that sentiment has kind of killed it in a way. But if you don't know this, I do participate more in the stock market with ETFs, simple dividend investing. I built a website for it. I've built a whole new channel. It is better at the minute because there's more sustainability. The thing is, the world of crypto has changed a tiny bit, you could argue, with the world of the ETF and the regulation, not to mention the sentiment. The sentiment being bad in crypto, people have jumped over to the stock market. Makes sense, right? So what you can see now, and I'm not the only one saying this, jump in Maxis, but you can trade traditional finance stuff. The volume on these are actually pretty high when you look at the numbers. Considering what they are and where they are, a lot of people are trading this market right now versus, say, crypto. So it's a very, very interesting point to make that you've got dividend opportunities, you've got breakouts driven by genuine catalysts, you've got, all kinds of what Trump's saying with tariffs. It's creating volatility. People are interested in that. So the world of crypto has not seen that kind of run, which probably strengthens the argument, I think personally, that we are still in a bear market for crypto. This doesn't mean I'm abandoning crypto, by the way. I still hold it, but ultimately I do have wealth elsewhere. I always have. I just now talk about it a lot more freely on my other channel. If you're interested, there's a link below to it. Now, one channel I do recommend, and it's entirely up to you what you do here, but Camel Finance is really good with the sentiment around the cycles. The reason why I say this is because everyone looks at the market differently, and he's right. I agree with the time. People are looking at this like, oh, bottom's in. I don't think it is. When we look at timescales of bear markets and bull markets, you've got to have a bit more time. If you look back at Bitcoin in the past, it will bottom out and it will take a bit of time to do it. It will sit there for a couple of weeks, couple of months, especially in and around areas, and then it will eventually just do its thing. But people just think, oh, bottom, hit a note, and off we go. It doesn't really work like that. And I explained that in my Patreon yesterday in terms of why we need to be careful and pick your zones correctly to start accumulating. It doesn't mean you have to get the exact bottom. It just means if you find an area, you think, that's all right, just keep adding in that region, and then it might go low, it might go higher, who knows? But at least you've got time to do the thing. But on the screen, what I've done, I've put a 7-point checklist, what would make me bullish. Feel free to pause the video, have a little look, but it's kind of what I've wrote down before, but as you can see, it's quite simplistic. Now, I am building a dashboard. I am redoing it. I have showcased it before on my channel before, but I am going to redo it all with CoinMarketCap data, live data. I'm going to build some nice little tools. I've been building tools for a while, but only in the personal finance world. It's been a bit harder with the world of crypto because the availability of data isn't as well established, if that makes sense. But yeah, going to be building some stuff. You can join now. There's Discord, there's exclusive content, but the dashboard will get a massive, massive makeover. So feel free to check it out. And hopefully in the next couple of months, it will be pretty awesome. There'll be a lot of public side to this as well, so some tools. Whether I rebrand it into a separate thing or not, I don't know yet, but I'm going to build something pretty interesting, I hope. I'm going to be careful here. I think people get too bullish too quickly. I think people get too bearish at the lows. It's all about time. Understanding the point of when to buy and keep doing it over the course of time to accumulate a nice, juicy position. If you haven't done so, please do comment, subscribe, and like the video. It means an awful lot.